Great. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for logging on today. We're so excited to be here with PwC to talk about the different programs that they have for you. So we will be going through their Flying Start program and different things that you guys can do after school with PwC. So before we jump into it, just a few housekeeping things, how you can communicate today. So we have the chat box, the Q&A box, and raising your hand. I see that a few of you have already started utilizing the Q&A box, which is great. Make sure to use this throughout the entire event. Anytime you have a question, go ahead and put it in the Q&A, and we will do our best to get to as many of those as we can at the end. We'll have about 10-15 minutes to go through your questions. We also have the chat box, which you guys can feel free to use. If you have any input throughout the event, any experiences you want to share, if you want to speak with each other or speak with anyone from PwC, feel free to use the chat box to do that. And then finally, raising your hand during the Q&A session at the end. If you feel inclined to speak up, you can go ahead and raise your hand and we will unmute you so that you can ask your questions, but we will keep that one for the end during the Q&A session. So my name is Rosie. I'm the events manager at Pathway CTM. I get to host tons of events just like this one and help different companies to create events that are catered toward you guys, and we're giving you exactly what you're looking for. So one last thing before we jump into PwC slides, I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll. If you guys could go ahead and complete this. We have 3 questions. Are you able to see it there? So first question, which out of these would be the most difficult to live without? Music, chocolate, your phone, your favorite drink, or TV/streaming? Second question, what do you want to do when you leave school? University, apprenticeship, gap year, other, or you don't know? And then finally, how much do you already know about PwC? You can rate it 1 to 5, 1 you know nothing, 5 you know everything. And I see that someone answered they know everything already, so.
Not even I know everything.
Great, it's been up for 34 seconds. I'll give you guys a minute total, so 20 more seconds to complete this. Great, about 10 more seconds, you guys. Okay, poll has been up for 1 minute, so let's see the results here. Which of these would be the most difficult to live without? Most of you said your phone. I would agree. Would you guys, panelists, would you agree with that? I think, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. So what do you want to do when you leave school? About 47% of you said university, 31% said an apprenticeship. There's a couple people that are interested in a gap year, and the rest of you want to do something else or you don't know. I'd be really interested to see if you answered other for that. Go ahead and put it in the chat box. I'd love to see what you guys are thinking of doing after school. And then finally, how much do you already know about PwC? Most of you know nothing to a moderate amount. You're in the right place. You are going to get a lot of great information today. And one final thing, if you stay on until the end of the event tonight, you will receive a Pathway badge that you can put on your CV, on your LinkedIn, and that you can show people when you are applying to work. So make sure you stay on until the end of the session, and those badges will be emailed to you after the event. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Jordan to go ahead and share your screen and introduce PwC.
Thanks so much. Yeah, let me just get that up for everyone.
Great.
Fab, you just let me know when you can see that.
Yep, all good.
Perfect, thank you so much. Yeah, thanks Rosie for introducing us. Just to introduce myself, my name's Jordan. I work in the talent engagement and student recruitment team here at PwC. A little bit of a mouthful, but it basically means that I help to hire and attract students like you to our opportunities at PwC. We also have 2 lovely ambassadors on today's call, which I'm going to introduce you to a little bit later when we talk about some of our opportunities. But it's not just me on today's call. You'll be happy to know you'll be hearing from another voice, a couple of voices too. So just a quick agenda for today. I'll be talking you through who PwC are, because some of you might not know who we are. You might have just joined this event on a whim and just decided to do it, which is great. And I'll be telling you all about who PwC are. And I'll be talking you through our school and college leaver opportunities and our Flying Start degree programmes, as well as talking you through some application skills and finally rounding it off with a Q&A session. But firstly, I just wanted to gauge what do you think of when you hear PwC? What is it that you think we exactly do? So if you want to pop any ideas in the chat and we can have a look at some of those.
Yeah, so go ahead and answer in the chat box. We'd love to hear from you guys.
Brilliant. So someone's put accounting, an accounting firm, an accounting company. Exactly. There's a little bit more to it though. Anybody else got any other ideas? Technology, one that we really always like to see. Account management, brilliant. Business consulting, yeah, exactly right. Audit, you'll be hearing from an audit specialist in a couple of minutes. Brilliant. Accounting, business strategy, tax, brilliant, well done. So I think we'll leave it there, but some fantastic ideas there. And you're all exactly right, but hopefully I'll be showing you that we're a really wide and varied firm, not just a firm of accountants. So firstly, our purpose. Some of you obviously are familiar with PwC, and some of you might know us as maybe a big accounting firm, one of the big four. And if you haven't heard of us, that's totally fine too. We always tell students that you can't go into a shop and buy something with a kind of a PwC brand on it or PwC logo. We don't sell a thing. Our product is in fact our people, and our people are experts in all different areas of business, technology, accounting, finance, even things as wide as cybersecurity, forensic technology, digital audit, supply chain operations, mergers and acquisitions. I could literally go on and on and on. But what happens is that other businesses who are our clients come to us to get really expert advice on how to manage their business related problems. And we deploy our experts to these clients to help them solve those really important problems. So there you can see it says our purpose is to build trust in society and solve important problems. That trust comes from audit, and it has expanded, but we were traditionally an auditing firm, and we can talk about a little bit later what an audit actually is and why it is that building trust in society that we've stemmed from and also continued with. So a little bit about us. We're called a professional services firm. You might have heard of things like the Big Four, and we are one of those Big Four firms. We do work with over 25,000 clients from across all corners of the UK, and those clients often have offices internationally, or their customers might be international, or they might have subsidiaries in international waters as well. So we work with all different PwC territories to solve cross-border problems. So it really is that if you were to join PwC, your opportunities really would be endless with us. We have 19 offices across the UK. So no matter where you are, there hopefully should be an office nearby to you, or in a city that you're wanting to work in. So PwC is really the place to be.
Jordan, if you wouldn't mind just taking a minute and elaborating on what the Big Four is. I think a lot of people are interested in these jobs, but don't actually know how big of a deal that is.
Of course. So the Big Four are four accounting firms, well, traditional accounting firms, and that is made up of PwC, EY, Deloitte, and KPMG. So we are one of the Big Four, and they are all professional services firms. So what I've just explained there is that we offer our expertise to businesses, clients, to help them solve problems. Each of the Big Four do kind of differ in different ways, and I'm happy to go through that as well in terms of how I think we differ, and slightly better than the other of the Big Fours. But that's essentially what we are with the top four accounting firms in the UK and probably globally too. Hopefully that answered that question.
Thanks so much, Jordan.
No problem. So what it is that we actually do, I've explained kind of how we work with clients, but like I said earlier, we're not just accountants. We have experts in lots of different ranges of areas, and what we call those areas are lines of service. So we call them our business area, but internally we call them lines of service. So you might have heard of things like tax, you might have heard of things like consulting, but you might not have heard of things such as risk or deals, and we'll go through some of those later. But this slide is just really to show you that no matter kind of what your interests are, you don't have to be an accountant, or you don't have to want to be an accountant to join PwC. If you wanted to join a tech firm, you might think of big brands such as like Google, but you might not have thought of PwC as a really good option to start your technology career too. So how could you join us? Which teams could you join? A little bit more in depth. So depending on which stage of your career you're at or how you're wanting to pursue your career, will depend on when you would join us. So for example, if you're wanting to join as an apprentice, not go to university, then you would be looking at things like Operate or consulting or deals or tax, where it says apprentices. If you're wanting to go to university, but you're also wanting to get your career off to a kickstart, then you might join one of our Flying Start programs, and you would either join tech or audit or Operate. And also, if you're just wanting to go to university and then start a career with us a little bit later, you can pretty much join all of our lines of service as a graduate too, or in our undergraduate program. So just think about where you are, what you're wanting to do, what you think you might want to do, and then think about when you could join us and what programs too. And I'll be going through all these programs in a little while, but you can see the overview of them here. So if you're in year 12 or year 13 in Northern Ireland or S5 in Scotland, then you can join us on our virtual Insight Week. And then you can see on the screen there that we've got school and college leaver opportunities. So joining as an apprentice straight from school and college. We've got our 3 Flying Start programs, and we've also got those routes for university students. But hopefully I can persuade you today that no matter which way that you join us, it'll all lead to fantastic career opportunities with PwC that's kind of backed up by us putting you through professional qualifications, having a really competitive salary, and having that coaching and support from PwC the entire way through your career. So just start. Oh, yeah.
Oh, that was my question.
No problem. So yeah, I'll be going through each of those on those things on the screen, but just starting with the virtual Insight Week. So if you're kind of in the correct year group, so just to recap, year 12 in England and Wales, year 13 in Northern Ireland or S5 in Scotland, you could join us on our virtual Insight Week. And this is during the summer between your year 12 and 13. So just before your final year of A-level studies or equivalent. And it's a week-long menu of sessions. Those sessions will be around our different lines of service, so you could get to know and try out our different lines of service and the different technologies that we use. We'll tell you more about our selection process. We'll introduce you to our internal inclusion and diversity networks. We'll give you some project work to do. So really, really exciting stuff. And it'll set you up in great stead to make that application on whatever you choose to do. So applications are going to be opening in early 2022. So if you do sign up to our talent network, which I'll send you the link for, show you the link for at the end of today's session, we can email you when those applications come out. So just with our school and college leaver opportunities. So school and college leaver opportunities are when you join PwC as a full-time employee straight from finishing your A-levels or equivalent. And you can join in one of 4 lines of service. So that's consulting, deals, tax, or Operate if you're wanting to establish a career in Northern Ireland. So the school and college leaver opportunities last between 2 and 4 years, and then you would become a graduate afterwards as well. So you go on the graduate scheme. You get a full-time salary, and we fully fund your qualification as well. So you'll be earning and learning at the same time. We give you real responsibility, real work. You'll have tangible impact on your clients, which is kind of something that 18-year-olds across the country only dream of. So why wouldn't you want to have that tangible impact on some of the biggest household names in the UK? And at the end of the day, you don't get any student debt, and you become a graduate without getting any of that student debt. So just some of the reasons for joining as a school and college leaver that I've probably covered already, but you get the opportunity to get a professional qualification. You join as a graduate afterwards. We give you real client exposure pretty much from the first day, a really competitive financial package, and no student debt. So kind of a no-brainer if you're thinking that university perhaps isn't for you.
Yeah, that's huge, Jordan, that you're not only going to leave with no debt, but you're going to leave with money in the bank, depending on how you save and spend. And I know you mentioned that you're not kind of, the tea person, you're not a coffee runner, you have real responsibilities. And you guys are going to hear that from the apprentices we have on today. They have some really cool jobs.
Yeah. So I'm just going to pass over to other Rosie to just explain a little bit about her role and how she has joined PwC as an apprentice straight from school and college.
Hi guys, so I'm Rosie and I have recently just joined PwC as a school and college leaver in September. So I've been on the programme for about 2.5 months and I can say it's honestly flown by so far. I already feel like I've been here for quite some time, but I never really was appealed to the idea of university. I didn't particularly enjoy studying when I was in school, and I thought I didn't really want to go on to study something for 4 years that I didn't necessarily feel passionate about, or I didn't really understand or enjoy. So I sort of started looking at apprenticeships, and I came across PwC as one of my first apprenticeships. And as I got further into the application process and I realised what consulting was, because I'm in the consulting programme, and I also realised what PwC was as a firm, I really enjoyed the idea of coming along to work straight away. And luckily, I managed to get a place on the PwC programme, and I'm currently in the XR team, which stands for Extended Reality. And that is my first rotation. So across my 2 years, I have 4 rotations. For the first year, it's internal, and for the second year, we're put onto client work. However, I'm already kind of been putting onto client work within my first few months. I've been sitting there, even presenting in meetings, which has been really cool. I wouldn't say it's been overwhelming so far. I think the firm are so lovely, and especially my team and everything like that. I've been really lucky where everyone is so helpful to help us. I think with joining from school, you get like Jordan said, you have no student debt and you're put straight away onto like a great salary, which has been amazing. And I'm in the London office, and the offices are both amazing, both Embankment and more London. But I would say so far, yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and I'm really excited for my next few rotations. I think in general, if you're worried about the idea of not going to university and maybe not, experiencing the social life like your friends may, or you're worried about, going into a full-time job at the age of 18, I can honestly say it's not been a problem at all. At PwC, I think you hear horror stories of apprenticeships of kind of, you're thrown into the deep end and you have no time for a social life, but I honestly can tell you here, not at all. I've met some great friends already on the apprenticeship scheme, and I'm still visiting my friends at uni, and I also have a salary where I can go and visit them, and they're sitting there maybe with their weekly food shops that's however much money, and I'm sitting here working in London, which has been a really good experience so far. So yeah, if you have any questions at the end, feel free to let me know how you want to maybe find out a bit more about life at PwC for an apprentice.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Rosie. Like she said, that if you do have any questions on the joining as an apprentice, please feel free to pop them in the Q&A and we'll get to them at the end. Perfect. So just moving on to our Flying Start degree programmes. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we do have 3 Flying Start programmes, and I'm going to be talking about each one of them in turn. So just starting with the Flying Start accounting programme, I just want to give Flying Start its slogan, so best of both worlds. The Flying Start programmes allow you to attend university, gain a degree, and also start your career at PwC with almost the guarantee that you're going to be joining as a graduate. So it almost kind of, if you're going to want to join, if you want to join PwC and you're wanting to study one of those particular degrees, then why not? So Flying Start Accounting. On the Flying Start Accounting programme, you would be studying an accountancy, business and finance degree at one of our partner universities. So that is the University of Manchester, University of Newcastle, University of Nottingham, Henley Business School at the University of Reading, or Queen Mary University of London, and they are the UCAS codes if you do want to make any note of those. The programme is for 4 years in length. All of our Flying Start programmes are. And in that time, you have 3 integrated and paid placements. And I'll talk about the structure in just a little while. The great thing about the Flying Start Accounting programme is that the exams that you do whilst you're at university, so to gain your degree, count for 12 out of the 15 ACA exams. And the ACA exams are what it takes to become a chartered accountant in England and Wales. So you have to do 15 exams to do your ACA. 12 of those will be done after you finish the 4 years. So you've only got 3 left after you finish the programme as a fresh graduate. So hence the Flying Start part of it, because those people coming in as graduates will have 15 and you'll have 3. So the entry requirements do differ depending on the university. So if you are interested in the programme, just check out the different universities and what their entry requirements are, as well as if they have any grade lowering programmes that you can take part of, as I know that a couple of them do. And new to this year, we have a financial bursary for our Flying Start Accounting programme. So if you are from a lower socio-economic background and you're eligible for the bursary, the eligibility criteria can be found on our website. You will be awarded a £10,000 bursary over the course of the 4 years to help you with things like living costs, books for university, that type of thing. So just really giving you a little bit of support whilst you're studying for those 4 years. So like I promised about the programme structure, this is kind of the outline of the 4 years of the programme. So in year 1, you're a full-time student, which is brilliant. You'll get to experience all the freshers and everything like that, what I wish I could go back to so much. But then in year 2 and year 3, you'll have 1 term at PwC. And then in year 4, you'll have 2 terms at PwC, and all 3 of those placements will be in our audit department, which is just super exciting. So I'm now going to just hand over to Disha, who's one of our Flying Start Accounting programme students. That's one that I was looking for. And she's just going to quickly introduce herself. Disha hasn't currently been on placement as of yet. She's in her 2nd year, so she's just before doing that first placement, hence we haven't got a journey slide for her. But she's going to tell you a little bit about herself and what she's looking forward to on the programme.
So, hi, my name's Disha, and I am, like Jordan said, a 2nd year student at the University of Reading, Henley Business School. And yeah, I haven't started my placement yet, but I have heard so much about the office and about the infrastructure, especially. It's such a beautiful office, and I'm really looking forward to starting my work. And you hear so much about the course from your seniors. You have so much of interaction with PwC. So you really start looking forward to it even before you can go for placement. And I'll have my training in December too. That will be virtual, but I'm even looking forward to having a PwC laptop in my hand. So it is one of the big 4, so it is a really prestigious thing. And I'll be working in the London office in the banking and capital markets section of, and so I'll only have clients who work in the banking and capital markets sector. And I come from Dubai, so I'm an international student. I can tell you that this is the perfect course for you because it got someone from another country to the UK. If you're really worried that you might miss out on the university experience, then I think this is the best course for you because you'll even get paid while you work. You'll also get accommodation. your books are majorly paid for, and if you do secure a graduate role as well, then PwC helps you with the last 3 exams too, of the ACA. So I think it's the best of both worlds, like Jordan said.
Thanks so much, Disha. Rosie, did you have a question? Sorry.
Yeah, I do have a question for Disha. So you are in your 2nd year and you haven't, actually worked at PwC yet. You've just done university. But how has PwC been involved in what you've done so far?
So from the recruitment process, you would actually think that in your first year, you're just a university student and you have no interaction with PwC, which is not true, because in my first year, I had an entire module which was with PwC. So you do have that regular interaction with them. They do instill their values in you. So throughout the module, every session that we had like an interactive session. So there'd be quizzes, we get more commercial awareness, and we're taught about what we're going to do. So I think PwC has really helped me grow as an individual, as someone who's worthy to be a professional, because the values, it's just mind-blowing when you actually learn about them. They might sound really simple to you, just team working. But when you actually learn about it from PwC's point of view, you'll actually be mind-blown, because it just sounds completely different. And it all sounds really exciting. I mean, someone would say just a quiz on team working might be boring, but PwC managed to make even that exciting during our sessions. So I think that entire module that we had, that was really interactive. That is how I received support.
Yeah, thanks so much, Disha.
Yeah, and just to build on that, we make sure that we don't just abandon you once you're at uni. We have kind of like trimester catch-ups. You have well-being catch-ups with PwC as well, just to make sure that you're like on track and you've not got any concerns about your studies or joining us. So we don't just kind of leave you out cold, and we support you throughout the whole 4 years as well. Brill. So just moving on to the tech degree apprenticeship. So this is another one of our Flying Start programs. So for this one, you would study computer science or software engineering at one of our partner universities. So that's University of Leeds, University of Birmingham, Queen's Belfast, or Queen Mary London. And again, 4 years in duration with 3 integrated placements. Structure is slightly different, and I'll touch on that. But the big major news about the tech degree apprenticeship is that we pay for your tuition and we give you a salary from day 1 right to the last day of it, and hopefully then on to a graduate scheme. So even when you're not working at PwC, even when you can't bother to get up for a lecture at 9 a.m, we will still be paying you, which is one of the fantastic things about this programme. The entry requirements are different depending on which university. So again, please do just check the university's website. And I know at least 2 of the universities do have grade lowering programmes. So I think it's the Access to Leeds and the Access to Birmingham. You will just have to check the other 2, because I only know those 2 because I went to Leeds and I've been working with Birmingham. So so they are so yeah, feel free to kind of ask any questions on the tech degree apprenticeship. We don't have an apprentice here with us, but I can tell you lots of different stuff about it. The programme structure for this one is slightly different. So you're attending university as a full-time student for year 1, year 2 and year 4. So for those years, you are just kind of September till your exams are finished, you're a full-time student. It's the summer between year 1 and year 2, and year 2 and year 3, and then a full year, full 12 months in your 3rd year at PwC. You'll be working in one of our fantastic tech teams. And then obviously if you graduate with a 2-1, then you'll be joining us as a graduate, hopefully. So just to kind of touch on some of those tech teams, as I often get questions about kind of what tech teams do we actually have. So you can see just 8 of them on the screen. There are so many more. Kind of more tech is coming out every single day. And you might have seen in the news that Manchester, so my home base, is currently undergoing a transformation where we're becoming the digital hub of PwC. and a whole floor of our office is becoming PwC's digital hub. So it's really, really exciting. So just a few of these. You might join cybersecurity. So we've got loads of our own confidential and restricted data and information. So we've got a huge global cybersecurity team, but we've also got teams that are helping other businesses to protect itself against cyber attacks, address their vulnerabilities in software and hardware, and also respond to cyber attacks when they do unfortunately happen. We do actually have a team of ethical hackers, which is really cool, who try and get in our clients' databases. Obviously, we do it with them knowing to test out how good their firewalls are, and then we report back on what data we could get, so then they can make the improvements or we can help them to do so. And we've got a tax technology team, and many of the processes within tax are quite repetitive, and they have a lot of human involvement, so a lot of human error can occur, and that leads to huge financial losses when it comes to tax. So we're using tech to kind of automate processes, check the accuracy of data, measure tax liability. So you could be involved in one of our tax teams, which is super exciting too. So just moving on to our final Flying Start programme, and that's our business management programme. So our business management programme runs out of our Northern Ireland Belfast office. So what you would do is you would join our Operate team in Northern Ireland, and Operate is our really delivery centre of the UK. They help clients with delivery and operational problems, whether that be kind of regulatory or compliance issues. And they kind of do lots of different things, but just to name a few, like financial crime. They help with screening contracts and automating that process. They have a business management process. They have a customer operations team, which go into clients that are having had poor customer feedback, and they might kind of reinvent a process or gain some more feedback on how to improve. So lots of different things we Operate to get involved with. What that programme looks like is that you would work for 4 days at PwC in one of those teams, and you would go to Ulster University for 1 day a week to study leading on customer operations is your kind of degree name. It is 4 years again, but obviously the structure is different. We do fully fund your tuition, so we pay that, no student debt, and we pay you a salary of £19,500 as well. So just another Flying Start programme to maybe consider. So if you've got any questions around any of those programmes, then please feel free to ask them in the Q&A. I'll be answering some of them a little bit later on, but I just want to make sure that I'm really prepping you on your application skills, ready for when you do decide to make an application. And many of these application skills are also relevant to applying elsewhere. So don't feel like this is kind of only for PwC. We have a similar recruitment process to many other employers. So even if you don't want to apply to us, then please do kind of take some top tips away too. So this is our application process. It looks pretty long, but it goes quite quickly. So if you're wanting to apply for the Flying Start Accounting or Technology programme, you need to pop that on your UCAS application form. If you're wanting to apply for our business management Flying Start, you apply directly via our website. Once that step's done, you'll do an online application form, a gamified psychometric test, a video interview and an assessment centre, and hopefully get those grades at the end, and so that you can join us on that programme. But I'll just go through those steps in a little bit more detail. Firstly, I know I'm going to be asked, what do PwC look for in a candidate? And I will always say the same thing: a candidate who can consistently demonstrate the PwC professional. Now, the PwC professional is a list of 5 core competencies that we will assess you against throughout the recruitment process. And we also assess our internal colleagues with them every year. So I'm assessed against PwC professional every year. So will be Disha when she joins, so is Rosie. So this is really like the core values of our people at PwC, people that can demonstrate these values. So it's kind of a list of 5. If you're wanting to join, then, or at least apply, I would definitely recommend doing your research and really thinking about at each application stage how you could demonstrate each one of these competency skills. They're outlined much more in detail on our website, and I'll show you a link to our employability hub. But just in the interest of time, I'm going to go through our recruitment process. So firstly, the application form. No long-winded questions. We don't do that to you. You can literally do it in 30 minutes. It's just your personal details, your educational history, so where you've gone to school, what are your predicted grades, that type of thing. And we'll also give you the opportunity there to submit any extenuating circumstances. So maybe if you don't reach the grade boundaries for our programmes, then and you have extenuating circumstances, then please do outline them there. We review them on a case-by-case basis. Also the opportunity to do your reasonable adjustments. So if you need any adjustments for our recruitment process, please do let us know. It won't put you at a hindrance at all. We just want to make sure our recruitment process is accessible for you all. You've then got the equal opportunities form, which is just a form to help us with our reporting, and it's completely anonymous. So the behaviour-based assessment is a psychometric test which is gamified. Psychometric tests can be a little bit daunting, but we've done them in a way that hopefully will be fun. So you can play these games on a mobile phone, a laptop, an iPad, whatever you want to play them on. And what they are is an assessment of how you naturally approach tasks. We're assessing 12,000 data points in it, so you can't really do much preparation. My top piece of advice for this one is just to play it as if it was a normal game on the internet, and we will kind of assess whether you're suitable for that role. You're just best relaxing, putting yourself in a nice environment where you're not going to be disrupted, and just kind of being yourself and not kind of trying to think what we're looking for. We're looking for someone who kind of can be themselves, and that's the most important thing. So like I said, making sure you're reading the instructions, being as relaxed as you possibly can, going with your gut instinct is probably the most important thing for these behaviour-based assessments. So once you pass those, you'll be coming to a video interview. So this video interview is using kind of video technology, so it's not a live interview. What will happen is pre-recorded questions will pop up on the screen. You'll have a certain amount of time to answer, to prepare your answer, and a certain amount of time to deliver them, and they are recorded, and then we have a look at them. The time limit does differ depending on which question, so just making sure that you're taking note of how much time you have to prepare and to deliver, and making sure that you do it in the time limit. So what does a video interview look like? There's kind of 3 main sections of the video interview. The first one is why PwC, and we call these our kind of motivational questions. So we don't ask you, tell me about a time when, because we realise you probably haven't had that much opportunity to gain some experience. What we want to see from you is a real understanding and a real motivation to do the role that you're applying to, and that you want to join PwC. So just make sure you do some research on the firm. I hope that will be PwC, but whatever firm you're applying for, make sure you do some research on them and tell them why you want to work for them and not somebody else. That's the most important thing. And we'll then ask you a couple of scenario questions. So we'll give you kind of a short scenario, and we'll ask you to think about how you would respond in that particular situation. Again, just thinking about the PwC professional attributes and how you think that a PwC professional should respond. And then you'll have a mini case study, so a little bit more content to digest, but you'll have more time to do so. You might need a little bit of interpretation in that. So just kind of trying to keep calm, keep relaxed, and making sure that you're adhering to the time limits as well. So how to prepare for the video interview? Top tip always is research. Tell me about PwC and why that you want to work for us. I know all about PwC, but I want to be told. Practice where you can. So we have opportunities on our website to practice these video interviews. But If you want to ask a friend or a relative to listen to you answering some generic questions, then definitely do so, or maybe record yourself on your phone or your laptop, just to make sure that you haven't got any like irritating habits. I know that I've watched a lot of people present and like you don't really listen to what they're saying because they have a really irritating habit. So just watch out for those. And making sure you're checking your technology as well, because everyone hates it when tech cuts out and you can't hear somebody's question or their answer. Top tips for the successful interview, making sure that you're dressing appropriately for an interview. That doesn't mean that you need to wear a suit. We have dress for your day at PwC where you kind of dress depending on what your calendar says on that day. But making sure you're probably not in your pajamas is a good start. Making sure you're speaking really clearly. So we like it when we can understand what you're saying. If you speak at the speed of light, we're not going to be able to understand what you're saying. So just taking it really slow and just pausing as well. If you're not sure or you've lost your train of thought, just pause and you'll regain your thoughts. Having a structure. So when you're planning your answer, do try and think about the structure of your answer, because there's nothing worse than just kind of word vomit. You'll just come out with everything and nothing makes sense because it's not in the right order. So just try and have a clear structure when you're delivering your answer. Be specific, so use examples. If you're talking about why you want to work at PwC, say, I attended an event with Pathways and Jordan spoke about this and I really enjoyed it, and tell them exactly what that event was, so that you're being specific and it's not kind of too generic. Take it slowly and have a glass of water handy, because it's always super useful. So I'm just going to give you 30 seconds. What do you think are the percentages of the ways that we communicate with other people? So how much do we communicate via our tone of voice? How much do we communicate via our body language? And how much of what we say is what we communicate? And just pop your guesses in the chat for me.
We'll give you guys like 30 seconds to answer this.
Sounds good. It's definitely a hard one to think about.
I know.
Okay, so we've got some through. So body language 60%, 50% body language, tone of voice 35%. Someone's guessed 40, 40, 20. Someone's guessed 30s across the board, 33 across the board. Okay. Got some fabulous answers there, and proportionally it sounds about right. Great, they're still coming, but I'm just going to reveal the answers. So what we say is actually only 7%, which is crazy. It doesn't mean that you can just talk absolute rubbish, but it just means that the other two, tone of voice and your body language, are really, really important when you're delivering these answers. So you've all probably thought something about the way I present today. So you might have thought she's really enthusiastic, or she has really good eye contact or something like that, which is great because that's showing that I'm communicating well, I'm enthusiastic about what I'm talking about, and hopefully what I've said is quite decent too. But if I was to sit there back on my chair and cross my arms and talk like this, really slowly like this, you'd be thinking, why am I at this event? Like, even if I was saying exactly the same things, you'd be thinking, I don't want to be at this event. PwC must be the most rubbish place to work. So that's how we communicate. We communicate in so many different ways, but you really need to consider those whilst you're delivering your answers, both in the video interview and the assessment centre, and just in kind of wider life too. Now I'm going to nip past the next couple of slides just in the interest of time. But if you are interested in having a look at kind of what a good interview versus a bad interview looks like, do make sure you're researching that online, and just kind of have a look at some of those top tips about what kind of makes a good versus a bad interview. So I'm just going to move on to our assessment day. I want to make sure that we've got enough time for those questions at the end. So our assessment day is completely virtual. So you can do it at the comfort of your own home, which is brilliant. We don't look at what you're wearing on the bottom. So if you want to wear your fluffy pajamas, then we can't see them, and wear some really nice slippers too to keep you warm. So our career focus day is our assessment day. So once you've passed all those stages that I've just spoken about, you'll come to this session. And depending on which role that you've applied for, it will depend on the tasks which are involved. But if you're going for a Flying Start programme, it'll just be a group assessment. So you'll be put in groups, probably about 4 to 6 people. You'll be given a task, kind of some preliminary materials to read through, and we'll kind of listen in on your discussion. If you're applying for a school and college leaver opportunity, then it is a one-to-one interview with a member of student recruitment, so someone like me, which hopefully isn't too scary. That group task, a written assessment and a numerical assessment too. And you'll be kind of thinking about how to manage your own time within that. So it'll really show us whether you kind of have the ability to kind of manage your own time, manage your own day calendar, and think about prioritising different work too. But it does sound scary, but it's not. We are so nice throughout, and we give you enough time to get all the tasks done as well. If you've got any questions about how our ambassadors found that day, then please do ask them, because they've both been through it. They've been through it more than I have anyway, so I'm just the assessor, but they've been through it from a student perspective.
And Jordan, I know you kind of mentioned this earlier, but also keep in mind that they don't expect you guys to have years worth of work experience when you're doing things like these. They know where you're at. So obviously stakes are high, you're applying for a role, but they know exactly, where you're at, and they've already seen the rest of your application as well.
Exactly. We don't ever ask those competency questions. So it's like the video interview with the one-to-one interview. It's all about looking at your motivations. Do you really understand the role that you're applying for? If it's got a professional qualification, do you know what the professional qualification is? Do you know what you could be doing on a day-to-day basis? Why do you want to do that? Why do you want to do this career for the rest of your life, or at least a few years anyway? So yeah, just show us that motivation rather than thinking that we're looking for any experience, because we're definitely not. So this is a fantastic resource if you're wanting to practice any of the selection process. It's our employability hub on our careers website. So if you scan the QR code, it'll take you straight there. But you can practice on e-learns, like about the video interview, the virtual assessment day. It'll tell you exactly what we're looking for, exactly what we're assessing you against. We're really transparent. So if you actually go through the e-learns, you're basically looking at the mark scheme for the assessors. So the kind of no better way to prepare, really.
And would one of you mind just putting the link in the chat box too, in case anyone's watching on their phone?
Yeah, Rosie, would you just mind just searching PwC Employability Hub and then just popping the link in the chat? I realise you probably haven't got it bookmarked like me.
No, that's no worries.
Thank you. Fab. And then if you do want to learn more about our Flying Start degrees, then we have got an upcoming event in December in our virtual parks, which is a virtual kind of avatar world. You get to make an avatar that looks like you and walk around the world and drive a speedboat. So definitely join us on that event if you are interested in one of the Flying Start opportunities, and there'll be lots more opportunities to speak with ambassadors and the different universities as well. They'll all be there to talk you through about their programmes. So we finally got on to questions. I told you that I'd leave at least 10 minutes for questions. So I'll hand over to you, Rosie, to give to pose any questions to either myself or the ambassadors.
Yeah, perfect timing. Great, thanks guys for your questions so far. If you have any more, make sure to go ahead and put them in the Q&A box. But we have some great ones here. So this is a really interesting question. Are there opportunities for young people to work? Sorry, just let me make sure I word this right. To take any time out, like a sabbatical during one of these times, to maybe go abroad or get some experience doing kind of a gap year?
Do you want me to take that one?
Yeah, Jordan, I think that would be best for you.
Yeah. Okay, so in terms of kind of like planned sabbaticals or planned gap years, we don't essentially like have a initiative for it. But that's not to say that if you got a role and then you decide to do a gap year, you couldn't ask us to defer it. So that's always one option. And we do have kind of a culture and a real ethos of flexibility. So it would be up for discussion on a kind of one by one basis. It's not kind of you have a firm-wide initiative for it, but if you did want to do that, then that could be a discussion that you have internally. I know a lot of people have done it, if they're kind of doing it for maybe educational purposes, something like that, then we're definitely open for discussion with it.
Great, thanks so much. So this one I think would be best for Rosie and Disha. The question is, what is the best way to prepare for an interview? And I think it would be really interesting to know if there's anything you guys kind of did that you think set you apart from everyone else when you were preparing for your interview. Rosie, if you want to go first.
Yeah, sure. I mean, when it came to the assessment day and all the interviews, like all the application process, I was so scared and I was so terrified when I was doing it. And I did mess up. I did, record it twice and suddenly I would pause and, said sorry halfway through my interview. So I can honestly say, don't worry, don't stress yourself out of it. I had multiple times where I came downstairs crying because I was like, I didn't get it, or I've, messed up. And I can honestly say, if you were just yourself and you just don't worry about these things and don't get yourself in a stress over it, it is a massive difference, and it does make a massive difference. I would say the biggest help is just researching the company, researching what we stand for, and why do you want to work at PwC, what genuinely interests you about the firm. So one of my things was diversity and inclusion. I really loved the way that the firm stood for diversity and inclusion and the values that they were adding into their strategy for it. So that was something I mentioned in the interview. So I think, yeah, just researching the different things that interest you about PwC and what you not really want to go into, but just in general as a firm, that makes a massive difference as well.
Thanks, Rosie. And you guys will hear that on every single one of these events you come to, no matter who you're applying for. Research is the best thing you can do to prepare for a job interview.
I was going to say that if you don't know where to start with your research, it's totally fine. The best place to start with any research about a company is its annual report. So easy to find. We've just published ours. So if you literally just search like PwC Annual Report 2021, so much information in there that you can draw upon in your interviews.
Thanks, Jordan. And Disha, how about you?
Even I did mess up a bit, and I was really scared too for the video interview because it was my first time doing something like that. And to be honest with you, I was sitting there wearing a complete full suit with a blazer and everything. So I thought it had to be really formal, but it didn't have to be. But I was really scared. So I wanted to make sure I had everything covered. And I think I agree with all of you. Research is key. And I do think that it's also good to be commercially aware, just to keep up with some of the important news. I mean, I'm not saying go into the depth of any industry, maybe accounting or technology, but basic things like maybe Facebook changing its name to Meta. So I think just being commercially aware does help as well, because then you can have a better reasoning for every answer you give.
Thanks so much, Disha. Great. So next question, we have a couple questions around this actually. And Jordan, I think this is best for you. How competitive actually is the Flying Start program?
I'm not gonna lie, very. Just because obviously you've seen the fantastic benefits that it offers, people would be kind of silly not to apply for it. However, that doesn't mean that you need to create some sort of like standout application. All that you need to do is just think about those professional competencies throughout the video interview and the group task in your assessment day. And just think about, okay, well, let's think about the group task firstly. If we go back to the PwC attributes, and let me just get those up. Where are we? Here we are. So if we think about the group activity, the kind of ones that really stand out for me are relationships and global and inclusive. You're going to have to establish strong relationships with the people that you're working with. So that might be making sure the way that you communicate with them is really strong, and then thinking about how you communicate. So are you enthusiastic? Do you listen? Are you kind of like nodding when they're talking? Are you asking relevant questions on what they're saying? And then sometimes you'll be in a group with somebody that you probably would never have encountered in your life. They might come from a different place, or they might look or sound or be just different. Then that's totally okay. We want you to have that curiosity to really get to know them, and not just kind of speak to people that maybe look or sound like you or you kind of relate with. Make sure that you're engaging with everybody, because that's what we are at PwC. We're such a global firm that we want to leverage that network that you'll establish. And then if you think about the other ones, then like business acumen, you'll be given some material to read beforehand. So have you really thought analytically about that material? If it's about a client, have you thought about the type of market that they operate in? Has anything like big standout happened in that market in the past couple of years that you think that would probably affect that client? So you think about things like COVID, Brexit, tax changes, the decline of the high street. So all these different things could affect the client. So that's kind of the way I'd be thinking about making a standout application, but it's not standout in a sense. It's just, we just want you to demonstrate them.
Great, thanks, Jordan. And I have one more question on that, and it will be the last question we answer out loud, just looking at the time here. So Rosie and Disha, while she's answering, if there's any questions here that you feel comfortable typing the answers to, feel free to go ahead. But Jordan, we do have a couple questions around people that may not have received the grade requirements. And I know that you kind of touched on this, but should they just count themselves out, or are there still ways to get into PwC?
So it's difficult because it depends which program. If you're applying for a school and college leaver route, we ask for between 96 and 112 UCAS points. So convert that into your grades, see if you're eligible for that. As well, we have the extenuating circumstances. So if you do have any, make sure you're flagging them. We then, for Flying Start, it does depend on the uni. We don't control the grade boundaries for that. It depends on the university. So they do have grade lowering programs, such as like the Access to Leeds, Access to Birmingham, definitely two universities that have them. So have a look at those. If you still aren't eligible for them, you can just attend university off kind of your own back and do what you really enjoy at university, and then join us via that way. On our undergraduate and graduate opportunities, we ask for that you're on track or have achieved a minimum of a 2-1, which is kind of like the standard at university. And that is in any degree discipline from any university. So you don't have to be at kind of a really top uni, perhaps, and you could join us on one of those routes as well.
Great, thanks so much, Jordan. And then there's quite a few questions here that I think would be best for you. So if you wouldn't mind typing out a few answers as well, that would be great. And you guys, if you haven't heard your question, just keep an eye on that Q&A to see if any of them are typed out. Just before we close out here, we have about a minute left. But I do want to let you guys know that this Thursday, if you're interested in applying to the Flying Start program, we are doing another event with PwC that is specifically catered around walking you guys through this application process. So if you feel overwhelmed, by maybe applying, you don't know what to do, you want more tips, we will be back with PwC later this week to do that. So I'm just putting the link in the chat to go ahead and find that event. Make sure you sign up. And we also have an event with PwC on the 2nd of December to speak about skills and different things that you would benefit from when you're applying to their programs. So make sure you check out that events page to see our future events with PwC. And then also, if you could go ahead and please type or fill out this survey that I'm also putting in the chat box. It'll just really help us to cater these events more toward you and give you guys exactly what you're looking for in these events. And it'll also help us work with PwC to make future events with them catered toward you guys. So thank you so much, Jordan, Rosie, and Disha, for being here and sharing all that knowledge. Tons of great things covered today. And thank you, students, for your great questions.
Thanks all so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.